All right, welcome back everybody to another episode of the Alternative Cycling Network, where we give you hot takes on the bike industry. And today we've got an interesting topic. We're going to be talking about the subject of bike quality, or quality in general. What is a quality item? How does it make you feel? And our first experiences testing out or riding really nice bike things. I'm Russ, one of your hosts, and I'm joined by Mike from Locked In, Zach from Zach Gallardo, and Eric from SpinDat. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Whoa. 2 thumbs up.
2 thumbs and 2 T's, baby. That's it. Yeah.
Let's kick it off with some super quick channel updates. We haven't done that in a while. And I remember someone was asking them. So, Michael, how about you kick it off? What's been going on Locked In?
So I've announced a few things. One, I'm doing a big time 550-mile San Francisco trip to the LA Hollywood sign that I announced, as well as a new build series where I'm doing the perfect gravel bike for road bikers, which totally kind of goes off of Eric's video he posted today. A tire review for Panaracer, and then tomorrow, for everybody who's watching this live, I'm doing the Transx Anti-Shock stem review for that. It's been highly requested.
Cool. Busy man.
Mm-hmm. Ryan.
Eric, what's been going on in up north?
Yeah, it snowed a little. I was on vacation. We went on vacation. I was gonna make videos while we were on vacation, and then I didn't. Then I came back, posted today about cyclocross and gravel bikes. Do this, yeah.
Riveting.
Full time. It's a full-time gig. It's a full-time gig. Yeah.
All the time.
This is what everybody can aspire to, folks.
Right. We're all wearing pajama pants.
That's it.
I'll go next because we're going to talk about a video that Zach did for the rest of the episode. But earlier this week, I did an unboxing video of the Jamis Renegade. And it was kind of on the fly, very low production, and we were joking that it's doing so dang well. I mean, apparently that's what the people want. They just want sarcastic unboxing videos.
I mean, they just want to hang out with you. Like, that's why everybody's here tonight.
One of the biggest channels is literally just unboxing things, so you're right there with them. Like, just don't even review the bike, Russ. Just send it back. And then just get another one and just keep going.
For the content.
Yeah, thanks for the content, and then just keep it rolling. Keep it rolling.
Yeah, we're gonna rebrand when we hit 100,000. It'll just be unboxing stuff and then repackaging them.
Yep.
Repack therapy.
Yeah,
repack therapy.
The path less reboxed. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
All right, so Zach, what's been going on your channel, and we'll have you tee up the video and talk a little bit about your video that you did on stylish bikes versus quality.
All right, what's going on my channel? I just got back. I just got back from a 40-mile ride that I was shooting like 30 minutes ago. So pardon me if I'm disheveled. And so that video is a case for solo rides. And basically, I'm making that video because Michael invited me to join for part of his trip. And I'm sorry, but I have to decline because I'm not trying to kill my 68-year-old dad.
Fair.
Yeah, I would love to go, but it can wait. Next year.
Yeah.
And as for the last video I did, the stylish bikes versus quality bikes, I was thinking, like, what makes a bike quality and what is quality versus what is style? And what I thought was style is something that deals with appearances, while quality is something that deals with the way things are. And one is clearly more appealing than the other and desirable than the other. And I would argue that quality is something that should be strived for in everything. And it's hard to do because it's something that you just innately react to. It's a gut feeling where you just know something is good immediately. It's not really something you could have a checklist to say, like, oh, I want these 5 things in a bike and it'll be quality, but it's something that everything has to come together, and it's hard to put into words, but you know it when you see it.
Right. Yeah. You had a great moment in the video when you talked about the gasp moment, like when your first experience with riding something of quality. There's like this, ooh, this feels a little bit different.
Yeah.
And for you, which bike was it again? It was your brother's Wabi.
Yeah, my brother's Wabi, and they're not sponsoring this video, but
They can. Don't forget. They can.
Yeah. So that was the first time I rode a Wabi. I was just riding around it in a circle in the garage, and the first pedal stroke I did, I was like, "Whoa! Like this bike, there's just something different about it." And in that moment, I knew that I had to have one, and luckily that worked out.
What bike were you riding before it?
I was just still riding my All City Nature Boy when he built that up.
Okay.
And yeah,
it wasn't like a crappy bike you were moving up.
No, not at all. It's a great bike, and I still ride it from time to time. But it's just something about it.
Nice. How about you, Eric? Like, do you remember a recent like aha moment where you hopped on something that was super nice and gave you pause?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I think it's fairly inherent in the channel that like I'm fairly content to ride like the 1991 Civics of the cycling world with like fart cans bolted onto them. And you know, like I've showed my first road bike on the channel before, which was an old CCM. I told that story on here before. Cut out the brake bridge, welded in a new one so that 700C wheels would fit. It was 27 before. So like just terrible bikes that I've always literally tried to make look cool, which is like, the literal opposite of what Zach was talking about in his video. I'm like, as I was watching it, I was like, these are all the things I do. I feel super attacked. And then when
Zach, if you got a thumbs down in that video, it was Eric. Totally Eric.
And then while I was working, I volunteered at the bike shop on Saturdays, and like it was awkward because it was like I was doing it for a mountain bike, but then I was surrounded by all these road bikes, and I like wanted road bikes. I was just way more into road bikes than I ever was mountain bikes. And this Dura Ace Venge came in, and I was like, I'm gonna buy that bike. And the owner of the shop also was like, well, I brought it in for me, so no, you're not going to. Yeah. But the benefit of that was he was like, why don't you try it? Like, why don't you go like just give it a try? And I think I was riding like a Ridley, basically like a hybrid Ridley that still used like road bike calipers. It was not a good bike, but I got it on Chain Reaction as a frame set for like $100, which is what I jumped to from the CCM. And like that bike was too big and blah, all that. And then I jump on this Venge that is just, first edition Venge, just under S-Works, Dura Ace build, carbon wheels. And like just that first like push where you're like, your power leg is up front and you just, the bike doesn't like squirm under you and like kind of puke its way out of, and the bike just kind of like propelled forward, like, and I was just kind of like, whoa.
How did that make the rest of your bike collection look though? Does it kind of ruin you for what the bikes you had? No,
definitely no. I mean, look at my bikes. I've got nice bikes. I'm sitting, this bike is always in the live stream. The LA is right there. The Crux is usually in here too. Like I have nice bikes, but it was that moment where I was like, okay, you can't just sit here and say there is no difference, but what you can say is like, a super stiff, fast, crazy bike isn't the thing that dictates whether or not you have fun on a bike. So like, yes, sure, aspire to having nice stuff, but I don't think that you should put yourself off on riding whatever it is you have because you need to have the better stuff. That was really what I was like, okay, like I need to stop telling people, you know, there's no difference. There is a difference, but you don't need that, which is like a, you know, a slightly, I think, more accurate argument. Saying there's no difference is not fair, like because there is. There just is.
Just needs two wheels and a chain, bro.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
and that will get you somewhere. Like I have a video on my channel called the $60 bicycle, and it's these bikes that come from India. They're literally made of like pipe. They're
lawn chair. Yeah,
you know, they're heavy. The wheels are terrifying. The brakes are linkage. They're not cable. You know, and that bike got me up and down a hill. Anyway, what do you guys have to say about this?
How about you, Mike? What was like the first bike where you were it awakened something inside you?
Yeah, so I started like really when I got into cycling, it was kind of just out of boredom, and I took my dad's bike out of the shed and like rebuilt it. But I always did like the trade up flipping thing because I didn't make a lot of money in college and didn't have a lot of time, and I worked part time, so I was always kind of trading up. And I think it wasn't until I got my first real like road bike, because I had built a road bike, built a fixed gear, and it was an 1/8-inch scrambler for the real OGs. Hey, everybody knows that website's dead. Anyways, so after that, like I had gone through an iteration of bikes. Like I'd kind of flipped through a few, and once I was working at Performance Bicycle, RIP, they picked up Focus bikes for like 1 year, and I looked at the whole catalog and I ordered the Focus Zalco Pro 3.0, and that was a force-built bike, and it ended up winning like 3 months later, like Bike of the Year from like every magazine as far as like spec goes. And so it blew up. I did a review on it and it did really well. And that was the first time I was like, okay, this thing fits. It's comfortable. It's stiff. It was super light. Like it was finally just like, okay, this makes sense of where the money, like into it, you actually felt the difference. Because I had like traded up and swapped frames and parts and wheels and blah, blah, blah. But it wasn't until like I had this whole cohesive package that I was just like, okay, bikes make sense now. And then everything as far as that just got worse. And I was like, okay, well, I got to flip more because I got to buy nicer shit now. So like, that's just how it went. And just like escalated. Yeah, it was chasing the dragon. Like I remember I bought Zip 202 wheels and I was like, oh man, I don't know about like carbon clincher wheels. And then I had some dude that was on my group ride, and he was like, I was really lean back then, but he was probably like at least 60 to 70 pounds heavier than me. And he looks at me, he's like, dude, he's like, I ride these down Mount Baldy, which is like a 8 mile, 12+% grade descent. He's like, I've never burned out anything. You're good. And I was like, okay, bottom. Like that was it. Like I was like, okay, because the quality at that point made sense. So yeah, it was definitely like my first real purchase, because that was the only bike I like bought at that point that wasn't like from Craigslist, essentially.
Nice. I think for me, I'm going to share two, and they're going to be both fairly quick. But the very first bike where it's like, ooh, this is fun, you guys are going to laugh, is actually a Schwinn Varsity.
Oh,
because the bike prior to that was like this heavy mountain bike that I'd ridden as a kid. So to some extent for me, like quality was relative, because I was coming from like a not very good bike at all to still a not very good bike in the spectrum of things, but much better than the previous bike. And I remember I rode the crap out of the Schwinn Varsity. I'd go into like the roadie shop and roll it in like, some baller road bike, and they're all like,
but which like Schwinn Varsity is like a very like lengthy history. So which Like era
Was-
or material or what was
It
it?
was a 60-pound version that was
Okay.
Okay.
like, it was we found it at a flea market. I feel like it was probably like 70s, but in good condition.
Yeah.
One piece crank.
One piece crank.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's commitment. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, for all I knew, it was like a fancy road bike. I didn't know anything about bikes back then, but that gave me, in some ways, I definitely laugh at it now. But again, can understand the perspective of like, just finding loving any bike to some extent. Most recent memory, probably the first kind of nicer-ish bike. Wasn't actually until I tested the YouTube channel or started testing bikes for the YouTube channel. It would probably be the first Ritchie Outback. It was like the first steel bike I got to try that wasn't, a Surly or an All City or from the QBP family. It was like, oh, this actually feels different, and it was like a big aha moment for me then. So
I have one quick question for everybody. If you could buy your first bike back, would you?
No.
I would just for sentimental reasons, because like my first bike was the one that got me into Fixer was the $280 Motobeacon track from Bikes Direct.
Oh,
Oh
cool.
yeah.
Like,
Oh yeah.
even though it's like such an entry level bike, I loved that thing, and there was still something about it that was like quality. I mean, it was a headache to at times, but like I still had a lot of fun, and I rode it a lot. Yeah.
Russ, first bike.
It would be technically the first bike would be that not very good mountain bike. I'd say my first bike when I got into cycling would be the Varsity. It would be a no. I would not buy that bike.
Yeah.
I would on mine for nostalgia. Like mine was a Centurion, but it was some weird 1 year thing. It was an aluminum front triangle with the steel rear.
Oh,
so that you got the performance and stiffness of the aluminum front and the ride quality of the steel rear. Like it was a real weird bike, and I got it because my uncle who was into riding, he like I sent him like, here's my budget, and my size, and he sent me this bike back, and he's like, yeah, just buy it, but we'll rebuild it, so just take it all apart. And me and my dad repainted like Lamborghini green. So it was like lime green with like a gold pearl flake in it. Looked awesome. But it was just a weird, funky bike. And I wish I could find it because it had all Forte performance parts on it because I still was working there. And I wish I could still find that just for like, almost a nostalgia. It probably rides like shit, but it'd be great to have, on the wall.
Yeah. How about you, Eric? What was your first bike, and would you buy it back?
So, I mean, did you guys start riding bikes late? Like,
yeah, I did.
Like, I know you did. I watched that video today when you talked. I watched I quit smoking and started riding bikes today. Yeah. So I know yours was late. But Mike, when did you start riding?
I had like officially riding. Like I had a Huffy back in the day. I feel like like I had one that I rode for way too long. But yeah. I don't think I started the channel roughly when I started riding. Like I had made the channel was like about random other crap for a while, but during college, I was bored and I liked to use your term, tinker with things. And I pulled my dad's old Raleigh out of the shed, and it was like a 63 centimeter, and I'm 5'11" with good shoes. So it was way too big, but I just like put air in it, and I was like, oh, this works. And I had like clip-in Shimano shoes. Me and my dad's shoe size were roughly the same. I was like, screw it. Didn't even try flats, just clipped in, fell over a few times in the street. It's fine. But that's like how I started. And I was like, oh, this is fun, but the bike's too big. Like I rode it literally in the 5311 thinking, oh, this is what you do to go fast. And then I would pass out after 3 miles down the street because I'm just like, oh man, this is so hard to go like on the flats. Like, what is this? And then I would just like stop every 3 miles, and then eventually I found out that my uncle was into riding, and then he was like, oh no, that bike is insanely too big for you. It's big for your dad, let alone for you. And then I got into cycling. So I'd say 2000.
So like, how old were you? Like, how old were you when you started?
I want to say 18, 19.
Yeah.
Something around there. Yeah.
Zach, like, how old were you when you started?
When I started seriously riding, I was 15.
Okay. Yeah. So if someone was asking me what my first bike was, it was a Hyper from like a retail chain, and I rode that bike. It was a BMX because that's what I did. That's what I did. I would have been like 9, and I rode it everywhere until I got. And this is just going to be fanboy stuff again, and it's going to make me seem like I'm such a fanboy. But it was a Specialized Street Boy BMX.
Oof.
It also had a one-piece crank, and I would have been like 12, like riding that bike everywhere. So that actually probably would have been my first real quality change before I noticed that I was going to have to use a bike to get around during college. But that was, it was certainly nice to throw around something lighter, especially as a weak little 12-year-olds. So yeah, no, I also don't want that bike back. Long story short, I don't want that bike back.
Yeah. So here's a question. So in the original video, Zach, you're talking about quality versus style. How for people that are getting or that are new to bikes, what are some ways that they can differentiate without having all the experience? Are there any indicators of a quality product? Or for any of you guys, if you can think of it.
I think there's definitely a break where price, is a factor. I think that if you're looking at, a certain bike and it's the too good to be true price point, it's probably the reason. So I think there's a definite split, and I think every bike, and depending on what you're looking for, has a breaking point. But for Zach, because obviously me and him have and even Eric, we all have a fixed gear background. We all know that oh, well, I want a fixed gear. And we all think, okay, well, yeah, you can get a decent one for I don't know, $500 to $600 or whatever. But everyone else is oh, well, if I type in fixed gear online, I can get one for $180 or 100 and whatever, $200. Yeah, but it's categorized as that. But here's 37 issues that you're going to have with it compared to spending a few $100s more. So I think there's definitely part of it is price, because like Zach said, he had the maintenance issues with his bike, and I've had one too with the loose ball bearing, everything, and whatever yeah, no, exactly, that's the disgust. Yeah, it's just it's ease of maintenance, and yeah, exactly. It's just it's where do you find the breaking point to where it's enjoyable and still fun. And I think one of the bikes, and I mentioned this to my buddy recently, just sadly, one of the most reliable bikes in my fleet is the bike that sits outside and gets rained on, because it's 8-speed. And you know what? That shifter, no matter if the cable is worn, warped, or rusted, it gets into a gear somewhere, and it still gets me down the road. And if that thing gets stolen, I don't care. But that's the bike, and it's loose ball, everything. But as long as the wheels aren't seized, I will still ride it, even though it's probably wearing out everything. So there's a difference in mindset for that bike, but I still love it for what it is. Do I wish it had a few nicer parts? Yeah. Will I maybe rebuild it with a little bit of money on the channel? Possibly.
That's a slippery slope.
No, yeah, but that's the problem. Is no, Eric, 8, like you said with your mountain bike, I think it's 9-speed now or 10-speed.
Yeah.
And how much easier it is to not be super precise.
Yeah.
And it still gets a gear.
Just
that's what I.
Yeah.
And it's just if that's how that bike is, and I think there's a big breaking point for most people. That bike will still get me to the store. It'll still run all my errands that I need to do with it. And again, it's the cheapest bike I own, so it's the one, if it's going to get stolen, that's the one I want it to be. And I still use a good lock on it, but it's just you find that breaking point or what matters to you. And I think that if it's the bike that you want to use all the time, that's going to be everything and all things, I would want a little bit more out of that, you know? So I think that's really where price comes into play, you know?
Have you guys, has your less experienced self ever purchased something that you thought was quality but was mostly style that your current, more experienced self kind of cringes at?
Yeah, I think I wouldn't cringe at it, but I remember when I was building the CCM and I knew that I wanted to build an old vintage skinny tube steel bike with a carbon fork and modern handlebars, and I knew I wanted the modern
The clicky thing.
yeah, one of those. There was a picture I saw of a Mercs. So I think what makes me cringe is looking at that like early 90s Mercs with a steel fork. It had lightweight wheels on it. And it was a full like campy super record build.
Ooh, yeah.
And I looked at that and it was like classic drops, like crazy low handlebars. And I was like, man, this thing's fucking sick. So in my mind, because I still didn't know anything, I was like, every road bike is a road bike.
Like Michelin Varsity thing.
Yeah, like exactly. I was like, I just need to find a cheap old bike and then like buy the like clicky things and like boom, I have that thing. Like that's what I'll have at the end of the day. And I think like I just went on like basically Craigslist. I went on Kijiji and like I put in like road bike shifters, and like whoever had actually put that in their explanation, it would pop up. And I didn't know what SRAM was. I didn't know what Shimano was. I didn't know anything. Mm-hmm. I looked for the cheapest one. I was like, what is the least amount? These are all expensive. What's the least amount of money? And it was a SRAM Apex like mini group, so like shifter and derailleurs, $200. And I was like, yeah, I'll have that. That's out of all the listings I saw, least amount of money. So I bought it. Like I met up with the guy, and he had said like he was a SRAM guy. He was like talking about why he liked it, and I was just like, yeah, man, like
yeah, totally.
Give them here. I want the road bikey things. And then like as we were putting them on, like someone was asking me what they were, and I was like, they're SRAM. They're like this or SRAM. They're SRAM
or SRAM. Did
like,
you say? Yeah.
No, I don't think I ever hit him with the SRAM. There's no.
I know that's just.
So I don't know why. So SRAM. I was probably SRAM rocking it. And then a guy at the shop was like, "Well, did you like pick up red?" And I was like, "Yeah." Yeah, man, that's what he's like. That's a nice group. And I was like,
"What are you talking about?"
I was like, "Hell yeah, it is. It's a nice group." And I think it was because like the shifters were a takeoff, so they still had the double tap instructions on the red thing. And I seen red. Yeah. It was red. Yeah. So he's like, "Did you get red?" And I was like, "Yeah, man, I got red."
Red stickers. No
he's
big
like,
deal.
And he's like, "That's sick." And I was like, hell yeah, it is. That's sick. And thinking about that gives me one of those like, oh.
You were because you worked at a shop, so you're just like, I was the person that I hate, like that. Just like
yeah. Oh yeah. And then I think like just as another thing to make me like, do you guys remember like, I mean Zach not so much, but do you guys remember looking at like a cassette and like being like, so like the wheel and the gears, like they go together. Like when they wear out, you throw them out. Like there's no actual way. There's no bolts. There's no bolts to get this off. Nope. And I remember watching it happen for the first time, and I was like, oh. There's like special tools for that. Okay.
Yeah, I remember I saved up for my first performance. Spin Doctor toolkit. That was what it was, and I saved up for their like it was like $100 kit, and I worked there, so I got it for like $50 or whatever it was. But oh man, like I was like, I don't know how all these things work, and that's
We're
what
gonna
started
learn.
yeah, but that's what started the YouTube channel. I would like I
Mhm.
would literally look stuff up and was like, how do I take? I literally had a video. I was like, how to install and remove your cassette because I had to look it up, and it was I didn't want to watch a 30-minute video of some dude in his garage with like one angle, and he's just like, well, this is the tool, and this is what it's called, and it was created in 1976, and this is how you use it, and you hold it, and I was just like, oh, dude, I could do this, and literally it was like, okay, I need 30 seconds of this video to do it, and that's what made a lot of my early videos was just like, here's the tool you need, bam, like done, and then you put it on. Like that, it done. Okay, that and it was all Spin Doctor tools. Like that was what it was. But like that's what it. I was just like, how do you do this? Because I couldn't afford to pay a shop or even my guys who were cheap. Like I was a struggling college student who barely worked because I was going to school full time and going to accelerated program. I'm like, I don't have any spare time, let alone money. You know, working a performance, they didn't pay you shit. Love them, but they didn't pay you shit. So I just told my boss, I was like, hey man, like at the end of the day, like you might as well just make this a tab when you pay me because it all goes back into the shop. Like I make like whatever it is an hour and I spend double that every week here. Like, you know, even up the discounted rate, like it's ridiculous. So yeah, that was basically how it went. You know, just you had to learn, just like hit it with a hammer and hope for the best.
Yeah. How about you, Zach? Did you ever buy something mostly on style in your past and regret it looking back?
So it's not a bike part, but it's also a tool. And I recently bought the Park Tool chain cleaner. Do not buy that thing. It is like I thought it looked so cool. It's like, oh well, there's all these wheels, and then like it'll get in there, and then there's a magnet at the bottom to pull out the debris from the cogs, and like it is a bloody mess to deal with, and it just use a toothbrush, dude. Like
yeah.
I might have lost a clip on mine, so I was like, originally I was like, oh no, mine was fine, and then Zach, I saw yours, like, oh no, mine leaks like that now because I lost a clip. It doesn't seal anymore. Yeah,
They're just okay. Like they work like just okay. If you, I mean, I will clean a chain once a year. But like, you know,
well, that's because you have like 18 bikes in your shed, so that's the difference.
Yeah, well, I suppose.
Yeah.
All of my chains are dirty though. Like everybody, anytime I do a close up of a chain, people are like, "Clean your chain much?" I'm like, actually,
I just
don't clean my chain much.
I think I don't know if I buy a lot of cringy things, I will admit, but it's because I get very obsessed, like super nerdy, and I'll go like down a deep hole and do lots of research and like convince myself mentally that this is the absolute thing I want. Some of the many things. One of them is a titanium toe clips by Bruce Gordon.
Oh wow! Yeah,
wow, wow.
Ones, not just like the flat things, but I don't know if you've seen them. Yeah, you can buy the steel ones.
Yeah,
yeah, you can get the steel ones. Yeah, but the tie ones are no longer in existence. But I had some of those because I was like, oh, I think that's actually what I was riding fixed.
Okay,
back then. So another kind of fool's errand was so you know, after the Schwinn Varsity, I got super nerdy into bike touring and did all this research. So my next bike purchase after that was a custom Bike Friday. You know, so small 20-inch wheel bike, custom built, but made for world touring. And yeah, I just go down rabbit holes.
That's like, what you went from. You went from the Schwinn Varsity to that.
Yeah, to that. And
oh my god!
It's a real weird. It's a real. Like the slipperiest of slopes, if you will.
I think that's where the whole my whole affection towards like weird niche products started.
Right. Because I'm like I've been toying with the idea of a custom bike. You know, since I rode BMX, like I originally wanted FBM to build me a custom BMX. I never did it, and then it's like now I have all these I have all these bikes, and I still want like a custom, and I have yet to do it. And if I sold some of these dang things, I could probably get one. Maybe we'll do that.
Russ, I thought you were gonna go like straight binoculars for like your bird watching. I thought that was gonna be like.
Yeah.
Is that?
Yeah. I've purchased many binoculars since I've gone into birding, or even like I've spent a small fortune on Japanese pull saws.
Oh Jesus!
It's just like
No,
it's like I go deep, and like I do search, like I'll usually buy the crappy cheap version of the thing, and then if like the itch stays long enough, then I'll do a deeper dive and find like a nicer version of the thing.
Like I get it for like the fishing poles and all that, but when you got into like the binoculars and I saw you have like 3 pairs, I'm like, okay, like I get it for the poles. Like I do. I and trust me, I'm into cars and like all the we're all into our own things. But I was like, it's binoculars. Like how do you like how is there a hierarchy with like I just want to see over there? Like how do you like that's what I was just like, all right, well
there's
sure.
a thing called chromatic aberration.
There it is. All right.
If you have like nano-coated lenses, then it occurs less, and they stay brighter at Anyway, so
see.
I was thinking of starting a new series on the channel called No Bikes, No Likes, and it just goes into each episode is going to be like some weird thing I've been obsessed about, and just like everything I know about this weird thing.
Just super try not to look at the analytics of it.
Maybe the passion project after I
just demonetize the video prior to making it so that you don't have to worry about it. That's what I'd recommend that.
Let's see. Well, we've got 168 people in the chat. If you guys have any thoughts on quality versus style or have any questions for us, let us know. So our friends, Rad Bike Adventure, were in the chat. And also let us know where you're watching from. I know it's like taboo to talk about brands, but are there certain brands in your head, you don't have to speak them out loud, that you feel are like mostly style and very little quality?
Many.
Yes. Zach may have mentioned one that in his video that I have worked for, and
I like that story.
Let's just say they make e-bikes now, so it's fine.
That was one bike from that company where there was some serious like QA issues. Like the dropouts were not parallel, and I had to like wrestle the rear triangle open it to jam the wheel in.
I try to fix those things while I work there anonymously, but things happen. Yeah.
Are we just gonna stay super quiet about the name, or are we gonna like pull up? We're gonna pull up the
it rhymes with Cheventon. Okay, so there you go. There it is. There.
Okay. Okay. I think I know who it is. Right. On.
Yeah.
There's definitely.
I feel
so I think that there's and like I think I'd love to start a bike company, but I don't know that that's I don't know that the world needs that. But at the same time, like when I picture some of the companies that do the cheaper stuff with especially the deep aluminum wheels, like I think that's very telltale. I think most people know that from anyone in the cycling community having literally watched Zach's video on how to spot bad fixed gears. Like the deep fake
80 mils are nothing, bro.
Well,
80 mils are nothing.
So arrow.
Like the fake velocity deep V's that ended up on all of the like fixed gear blanks that were sold to any company that just said they wanted to start a bicycle company. Excuse me. And the cheapest way to sell a bike is minimal parts, high production, so volume, and you get these very generic steel frames, steel forks, and they all have the like either very horizontal or like slightly like frontward sloping top tubes, and then those like bright colors, and then those deep wheels, and all anyone is trying to do is just copy what State did. Like State made it work, and like I've seen States in person. They seem to be definitely some of the better of the lower cost, like single speed fixed gears, and I think they're pretty good about being like, this is like a pretty basic bike. And then if you want something else, here's these other bikes that we've created that are definitely better. And then everybody else is like, okay, I see that ship has sailed. I'm going to swim after it and I'm going to try and copy it.
Yeah.
And you see it, like they pop up everywhere. Like they pop up all the time. And, I know there's certainly other brands that are maybe doing it in other ways. I don't know. I don't see whatever.
Yeah, no, I think they've embraced it, they've run with it, and they've built beyond that point. I think a lot of companies get stuck in like, this is going to be a thing forever. And then I think once Walmart gets a product like that, like a fixed gear, like then it's like, all right, it's dead. Like, let's move on. Let's move up a little bit. But the thruster came out. The thruster, come on. Yeah. The thruster was the fixed gear of fixed gears at Walmart. It had red and yellow front and rear wheel. I believe it was 26-inch and coaster brake.
Oh, dang.
Sick.
With handbrakes as well. With handbrakes as well. And
it's so that new riders can learn how to use a handbrake.
It might have been
of the coaster brake.
Yeah, it might have been 700, but I saw. Yeah, they're man. Quill stem with like the positive 30 degree. Like it's basically just a beach cruiser. Like, but they call it a fixed gear. It was just like a straighter framed, like geometry wise, but all beach cruiser parts. Like,
it sounds like fun to me.
Oh no, I would 100% like, I can't ride fixed brakeless anymore, but I would 100% ride a coaster brake as a fixed gear brakeless bike now. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah. But no, once that happened, I was like, okay, fixed gears are dead. Like that was it. The cool factor is kind of gone, and that was it's everything changed.
Does Walmart have a gravel bike that's sold in stores? I mean, I know that they've got their market brand, but I don't know if that's
Oh yeah, the Viathon? Is that what it's called? Yeah. Those are still out.
Yeah.
But I don't think they have a, like, they call it a, Walmart has it. It's basically a suspension bike. It's not even like a rigid bike or whatever. They have e-bikes now that are, it's for $400.
Does it come with a fire extinguisher?
Comes with free fire extinguisher.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's see. Well, we talked about quality versus style, gas moment. Yeah. Any other thoughts, guys? No one's really asking. Come on, YouTube commenters. You usually have questions. Ask away.
Everyone's
other than Biathlon is weird. Yes, it is weird.
Agreed. Not a question, just an agreement.
Right. So Alex here says Benton fixies kind of common around Hollywood. Yeah. Trevor Simpson here, a big fan of the State Simpsons 4130. They do lots of interesting collabs. I think when we had them on, we
certainly got into that. You have to appreciate the amount of effort that is put into everything that they can do and make happen with how much is one of those bikes now? Like, is it still $450 or $500? Like
for the collab bikes, because they have to pay royalties. They are pricey.
But even
depending on what it was,
even the base bikes, like what is?
I want to say they're three. I'm looking it up right now. I want to say it's
cheap.
The Coraline bikes, which I'm looking at right now, are between 300 and 400, depending on if it's a collab or just one of their like actual bikes that they make without having to pay royalties.
Right.
But they have
4130 frame and fork, right?
No, that they have a
Just
4130
Chroma.
line.
Okay.
Those bikes are 460. I'm looking at them right now.
All right, since we have the fixed gear Titan in the chat, I'll let you answer this one, Zach or Michael. Any suggestions on the fixed gear that
50?
will clear a 50C tire?
I don't think so.
This is a not sponsored suggestion.
Zach's new Wabi that's going to come out is going to clear a 70C. It's fine.
The Wabi Thunder fits at least 45s, maybe 50s. I haven't tried 50s. And
Would the
The-
Surly long haul or like any of those Surly?
Surly Steamroller can
Yeah.
fit
Well,
38s.
yeah. I've seen
Maybe
42s.
bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the All-City Nature Boy can fit maybe like 42s.
Right.
Yeah. With if you take out the rear fender bolt, it'll clear
Yeah,
that.
Right.
Or put a real flat head one style on there. But yeah, no, I don't know of any natively that'll clear. Even if you, well, I mean, I guess if you run it brakeless, maybe, but it'd have to be something like that if anything's going to natively clear. But like 42 to 45 there's a few, but 50, I don't think there's any like stated 50C clearance.
Yeah, and the max is the stated clearance is the Thunder at 45.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a big tire. That's a big
Yeah.
old tire.
Yeah.
What are you doing, Andrew? What are you doing with your fixed gear that you need such a big tire?
All right. So CJ asks, why are square tapers still a thing? Because they're awesome.
Yeah, they're
Because they're
sick.
cheap.
Why
Yeah.
shouldn't they be a thing?
Yeah.
They're-
You gotta-
like-
So picture like
A young
picture
Eric.
a frame that you're having problems with like fitment in the chainstays. It's as literal easy as buying another UN 55 that is just like 3 mils wider, and you can
No.
buy it in
Yeah.
every width spindle. You can fix every problem with a square taper crank. So that's why they're still a thing. Not to mention, if you've got the correct width spindle for proper chain line on like a single speed, for example, but also with a nice enough crank, the way those cranks should go on, they should get just close enough to your bottom bracket shell that it actually hides the spindle pretty well, instead of being like so far out that
Right.
like it's super obvious it's square taper. And I think, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that is everyone's biggest qualm with square taper is they're like, oh, you can see the spindle, it looks cheap. And it's like, that is like, that's a problem with cheaply put together square taper setups, where square taper can be like tuned, cheaper to get everything for. Like, if your crank doesn't fit, it's not you buy new cranks, you buy just another, in my opinion, you buy the $40 like UN 55. And they just do not get destroyed like sternal bottom bracket bearings do.
But okay, so I have one thing to that is, yes, if it's a crankset that has the self-extracting like end caps to it, because that's a game changer for square taper for me.
Mhm.
So for everybody who's maybe unsure, is typically for a square taper, especially for your more budget oriented bikes, it has a crank bolt that threads into that, but then you need a crank puller to pull it out.
Yes.
Well, eventually they had is mainly, I think, was it Shimano? I think Shimano came up with it first. I'm not 100% sure on that, but basically what they did was they had a bolt that would rotate on itself, and they had a cap that would thread into the crank arm. So when you tighten it, it would tighten onto onto your spindle, and then when you'd loosen it, it would kind of push against that end cap that's on there and then pull itself off. That phenomenal. And for Eric's point for the different spindle widths, it was great. Once that went away, because I feel like a lot of these like even budget to mid-level cranksets that are out now, they're all crank bolt only. So you have to buy a separate tool, and depending on the quality of the tool, you can strip the threads, which I've done with a
I've
cheap
done it.
crank
I've done
remover tool, and you pull the thread straight out of the crankset, and then you're screwed, and you gotta hacksaw that thing off
I've
there.
also done that.
pull the So like there are benefits.
are awesome.
Yes, there are benefits, but there are many of things that I have lost sleep over and been like, I bought a crank. I went to AutoZone and got a crank puller to try to pull Zach,
Yep.
you know, because you're
Yep.
stuck Sergino 75s, try to pull a crankset off of a square taper bottom bracket with like a car pulley crank puller. Like that's the stuff you can do with it. So yes, it is potentially good, but only if it has the self-extracting bolts on there, in my opinion. So you can do both and not worry about it, because Lord knows I've been there in an AutoZone parking lot with a guy trying to hold a crank puller with like zip ties and rubber bands around it while I'm trying to like beat that thing off and like pull it out. Like it's not great. Yeah.
Yeah. Zach, any thoughts on square taper?
They work, and I like things that work.
Yeah, they do. They work great. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. The only bikes I've had issues with were ones that had like press fit BB, and I mean, I'll test them on the channel.
Those
but
are the
like,
worst.
in terms of bikes that I'll buy for my personal stable, it's usually threaded all the way. So here's kind of a related question to this topic of quality. Richard White asks, how to explain to your friends that budget bikes are not good in the long term, i.e. $500 versus $1,500. I mean, budget's a tricky topic because it's so relative to people. But generally, how do you guys, if someone came in, how would you talk, or would you talk them into spending more money, or like how would you frame the argument?
yeah, this is we've had this topic a lot. Zach, go ahead, Zach. You've not.
All right. So for fixed gears, I'll just play with the numbers a little bit. So like $500 will get you a really like solid quality fixed gear, entry level fixed gear, and then the like really cheap ones will be like $200. And the way that I frame that is like, well, you're going to enjoy it more than twice as much. Like if you intend to actually ride the bike, you're going to want to spend on the $500 fixed gear versus the $200 fixed gear, because it's going to be less hassle in the long run, and it's probably going to be cheaper in the long run if you intend on actually riding it. But then, and then also those quality bikes that are at like past a certain threshold of quality, they retain their value a lot better, and they're a lot easier to resell in the event that you don't want to keep it around anymore. If someone just wants to try out fixed gear riding, I'll say like, just buy one of those $500 ones that like everyone likes and try it out. If you don't like it, you could resell it and get most of your money back.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. I think that's the same with geared. It's just, there's a threshold of, like I kind of mentioned earlier, where I would tell people like, look, I had people that come into my bike shop when we sold Giant, like, hey, what's the difference between this hybrid bike and a Walmart bike? Because there's a $400, $300 difference, whatever it was. And I would tell that I had one success story where I told a family, they both wanted to do this charity ride. And I said, hey, look, that's a challenging ride. Our bikes are professionally built. We know what we're doing. You have a warranty. We're going to service it for the first year. And realistically, if you look at most things that go wrong with bikes, at the end of the year, you maybe are going to be spending $50 more, but you're going to be gaining a whole lot as far as convenience and enjoyable experience during the riding portion of that bike. You're most likely not going to have things wear out or replace. So over the lifetime of it, you're probably going to be saving money. In the first year, I said, yeah, you might lose, like I said, $50. Because I said, typically, when someone brings in a Walmart or department store bike, we have to rebuild it from scratch because typically the fork's on backwards, things are not adjusted right. We're rebuilding the whole thing and re-greasing it and everything from scratch. That's going to cost you $60 to $100. And then every time you're going to need to service it for that first service, $40 to $60, depending on how bad it is. Retention, the wheels, blah, blah, blah. And so I said, now that price gap is really, really small. And I said, so after that, it's now onto the quality of parts that you have on the bike. And so now, you're dealing with name brand stuff. I was like, I told him, I was like, yes, this is Shimano and Shimano, but I cannot order this level of Walmart Shimano because it doesn't exist. It's just on this bike. They just paid to put a sticker on it. I said, I can warranty and service this. So worst case scenario, if something happens, I can take care of it. So that's really where at the end of the day, at the end of the first 6 months to 12 months, like Zach said, depending on how much you ride it, you're really at a wash, but ideally you're at a more enjoyable experience. And then after that year, everything's going to last way longer because again, you have a more solid base, no matter what the price point is. Because again, you can't even order as low end as Walmart can get,
Mm-hmm. So a couple of variations on this question here, if I can find it. When money is tight, how to ensure best quality frame or components? Wheels above all other components. Where would you guys throw the money? Limited budget, but trying to get the best ride experience.
Contact points. Like comfort is
Contact
king
points.
for me. Like if you're not comfortable on the bike, you're not going to have fun on the bike.
Mm.
It doesn't matter how nice your wheels are. If your saddle is making you sore, you're not going to ride the bike.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
Right.
I think it's multiple things. I think the frame is your foundation, like a house. So I think the frame is solid and you have like a 9 or a 10-speed group set on there. If your frame's decent and good quality, that'll be the main basis. I think, again, just like Zach said, I always recommend people like get a good quality pair of bike shorts because that'll make a crappy seat feel better. And if it still doesn't feel good after a few weeks, get a nicer saddle that maybe fits your body or you want to experiment with, because in the first few weeks of riding, everything's going to be sore. It doesn't matter what you get. You could have the best saddle that's most appropriate for your body type, but everything's going to be kind of sore. So get a good pair of bike shorts, get a good frame, and then build off of that. If the saddle's still not feeling good, you can get a nicer seat. If the foundation of the frame is good and you want to eventually upgrade, it's worth putting money into. Whereas you have a noodly cheap frame that's got Durace on it, it's still going to feel noodly at the end of the day. So you might as well start again with a good foundation, good pair of bike shorts, good frame. Everything else can be modified after that.
Yeah, I'd say assuming you have the contact points covered, I'd say splash out on the tires.
Right.
Yeah, for
because,
sure.
like if you've got like some heavy, thorn puncture resistant, super built up tires that weigh like 3 pounds each. You can change the shifters all you want or the brake. That's not really gonna do anything in terms of ride quality. But
Right.
for something a little bit lighter, I think that's where you'd get more bang for the buck.
Mhm.
Totally.
So let's see. How about you, Eric? Where would you
So
on the budget?
I'm thinking. So yeah, here's what I'm thinking. Is like, let's say, I bought the Rockhopper. The Rockhopper for $200. Like, and I think a lot of people who, when money's tight, they're like, okay, there's an older bike, quality name, definitely quality parts, for $200. Like I can stomach that. So, you pick up something from a reputable brand. When I got that bike to the house, I knew I was pulling it apart, but I went over it and I was like, okay, what do we like? Could someone feasibly jump on this and enjoy themselves? And the answer was no, because it was an older shifter and it was an older drivetrain that, like, the plastics were broken. It actually wouldn't shift. And I'm like, okay, so, you're going to have to deal with, like, if there's problems, you got to get your tune-up out of the way. And then, hopefully you're not at a shop that's looking to make so much money that they're going to say, you need to replace everything, because they'll hit you with unsafe. A lot of times things aren't unsafe, but like, if they say you need a new shifter, you probably need a new shifter. So it's like, okay, throw at least the shifter at it, so that, like, when you jump on that bike, there's really nothing more frustrating than, like, just trying to pedal around and having something skipping back and forth on a cassette. That's a very easy way to get someone to just, like, this thing is cursed. Like, I don't even want to be around it. So, like, I think dealing with the actual action of pedaling the bike is your most important place to start. And then, like, as you're riding it, like, then you need to worry about your saddle and your, like, handlebars. Tires woke that thing up a lot. I think that would be that would be one of those things that I think someone who maybe got a bike that was working fairly well, and there wasn't those extra, like, deterrent problems, like, that could be your biggest aha moment, is your like a little splurge on some tire, and be like, oh, like, I think someone could have an moment with tires. And definitely you could have that same moment with a saddle. Like, you could, if you found, like, if you find a saddle that you get on, you're like, oh, like, I think you could have that with tires and a saddle. I don't think you could have it with a frame set, like, not right away. Especially if money's tight, you're looking for best quality. I don't think you could get that with a frame set. And I especially mean that if you're new, because you don't know anything yet. But one thing you do know is, if your chain is skipping around, screw this, I'm done.
True. Yeah.
That's what I think.
Let's see. I think that's so we've seen this pop up a couple times. Merch. People want the merch. If you guys want some merch, let us know what exactly, so we can figure out if what we should put resources towards. I think merch is about time. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I mean, I'm not opposed to it. I'll certainly.
I feel like I just got here, and then someone was like,
You're like, it certainly feels like time.
Well, Zach can ship them all out. That's what we'll do. Yeah, Zach can ship it all out. Yeah, he's newest. He's got to earn his keep. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
no one's getting
No one's getting merch.
We played with the idea of patches. Stickers are easy. I don't know.
I mean, we could start with stickers. Like, patches are a little bit more of an investment.
Sure,
for sure.
But the hesitancy is more us than it is you guys. I'll say that
for sure.
Yes. Who's going to do the shipping?
ACN team kit. I just saw that. That's going to be oof.
No, let's make up for it.
Yeah.
Tie-dye hoodie.
There you go.
I mean,
I can make those. I mean, I'm I can make them. We can do them with a hand. Zip ties. That's it. No, that's the biggest flex, because who is Mighty Car Mods? They have zip ties. Like, come on.
Do they?
Like oh my god, yeah, they do. Yeah, huge. Yeah, we could totally do that. We could with a little sliver of duct tape. Just a little bit.
I'll run down to the Ace and buy a bag of zip ties
and literally just put an ACN sticker on it and be like,
I'm 100% in there. There's a Dollar Tree right down the street from me. I will supply. Yeah.
I'd be really against selling low quality zip ties like these. Like, if we're doing zip ties, we're doing, like,
it's got to be Eric
the
approved.
the ones with the metal tab. That really
yeah.
like they got to
Yeah.
be baller.
Yeah.
Artisan zip ties.
The Spindat certified zip ties. Yeah, they can hold your car together while you're doing while you're on the Autobahn. That's
I drive a Volkswagen. I know how to use zip ties.
Nice. Here you go. Square taper dust covers.
There it is.
I block them.
I don't think of any bikes that I have. I do have some square taper bikes.
Yeah. Nice. All right. On that note, Zip Tie Elitas, I think I'm going to take us home. There's 203 of you in the chat. If you enjoyed this session of knowledge, I guess, be sure to give the video a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. Also subscribe to everyone's respective channels. Michael from Locked In, Zach Gallardo from Zach Gallardo, and Eric from Spindat with 2 T's. With all that, thanks for watching. Good night, and keep bikes weird or something. We have to come up with a better